What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Off the Shelves. If this is your first time checking out this video series, this is basically my Blu-ray and DVD update video. I do it every single month. I talk about all the Blu-rays and DVDs I bought over the previous month and give my quick little reviews for them and tell them whether or not you guys should go out and buy it, skip it, or check it out on Netflix. So, now before I get started talking about the movies that I bought this month, guys, let me give my usual spiel on my Amazon affiliate links. Every single title that is in this video, I have an Amazon affiliate link down in the video description below. If you're interested in buying any of these videos, please consider clicking these Amazon links. It'll take you just to Amazon.com as if you typed in Amazon.com yourself, but if you use the links that I provide, it ties to my affiliate account, and anything that you buy on Amazon, whether it's these titles or something completely different, you don't have to buy these. You can click one of the links for these movies and you can buy a new sofa or whatever you want. As long as you use my links and you go to Amazon and purchase something, I get a kickback and that money goes right back into this channel. So it's a great way to support this channel while adding badass movies to your collection. So with all that being said, guys, let's talk about the movies. I have one title that I cannot show you the physical actual box of because I let my father borrow it. I did buy the Best Buy exclusive Steelbook of the 4K of Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman is awesome. I haven't had a chance to rewatch it yet since I saw it in theaters, but so far, just behind Logan, it's my favorite superhero movie of the year. Definitely the best movie the DC EU has put out so far. Actually, you can't call it the DCEU anymore. The DCFU, or whatever the hell they decide to call that damn thing. The DC Cinematic Universe. Just fucking call it that. But Wonder Woman is a really, really good movie. It's a good origin story. It shares a lot of the pros that I had with the first Captain America movie, not to compare it immediately to Marvel, but just a good story about a good-hearted person that's kind of rising through in this world war, trying to take down this ultimate evil. Really loved Gal Gadot in that role, loved Chris Pine in his role, loved the Themyscira Island in the first act of the movie. I liked the period piece feel of the second two acts. Really gave the DC universe a shot in the arm that it needs, gave them the direction that they need to take these movies and be in just a good story-focused, director-driven movie that ties into the universe but isn't focused on building the universe above telling a good story. So absolutely go out and buy Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is awesome. Moving on from that, I'm going to do these totally random. You know, before I used to do like, these are the new releases, these are the horror movies, these are the 4Ks. Now I'm just going to kind of do them random just to keep you guys guessing. So, first up, we're going to talk about a horror movie that I have heard about my entire life and just now had the chance to pick it up and check it out. And that's the Scream Factory release of Motel Hell. And this is basically the B-movie horror comedy version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's what I call it. Basically, you got Farmer Vincent and his sister, and they are running this, basically they're known in this town for the best meats in the world, like the best smoked meats, the best hams, the best bacons and everything. And turns out that all of their meats is actually human flesh. They trap people, they feed them, they plant them in the ground up to their necks, until eventually they slaughter them and turn them into meat. So it's a pretty wild little horror comedy. It's enjoyable. If you go into this knowing it's a B movie and with the intention of having fun with it, you'll enjoy it. If you take this really seriously, like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you're going to hate it. So know who you are before you walk into this movie. Know what the movie is, and I think you'll enjoy it. But nonetheless, check it out on Netflix. Pretty good movie. Moving on from that is a Stephen King movie that I have never really heard anything about. I've never heard anything negative or positive about, but it was in a little Walmart bargain bin, so I picked up Cat's Eye. And I enjoyed this. This was a small little anthology movie. It's got 3 stories, one of them surrounding James Woods trying to stop smoking, which is probably my favorite of the 3. Another one involving a guy who's forced to walk around the perimeter of this huge skyscraper, this high-rise building. And the third one is involving Drew Barrymore when she's a kid, basically the one that's on the cover. And that she has this little troll that comes out of her wall and is trying to basically feed on her soul. And the cat that's the main character that kind of ties all these stories together is what's protecting her from this troll. So I enjoyed this movie, actually. It's a really good little anthology movie. 3 stories, very simple but very cool stories. Very rated R in some aspects, even though it's a PG-13 movie. They go for broke in a couple of sequences in this, so I actually recommend the hell out of this. I'm going to say go out and buy it. Moving on from that is a classic movie that I grew up watching that needed to be a part of my collection. It's one of my father's favorite movies, and even though the franchise is very kind of hit and miss and has a lot of weird directions it went, the first movie, if you're a fan of it, it's undeniably a classic, and that's Highlander. So I got the Highlander director's cut. Basically, this is telling the story. It's Christopher Lambert. You know, most people know what Highlander is, but basically they're these ancient or some kind of really hierarchy level of human being where they have like these powers basically, and they're sword fighting, and what there can only be one is kind of the catchphrase of this movie. So they're in this constant battle to have only one left. So every time a Highlander kills another Highlander, you know, they have to decapitate them. They basically get all of the strength that Highlander has gained from all the people that they killed. So, you know, it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain because there's so many different time aspects of it. There's a period piece aspect. There's the modern day aspect. There's fantasy. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. It's a wild movie. It's a love or hate movie. Some people look at it and they're like, what is this? And some people look at it and they're like, man, Highlander's a classic. So I'll say check it out on Netflix. I don't remember liking, or I didn't like it as much rewatching it in my 20s that I did whenever I was a kid, but still a classic that I will enjoy rewatching here and there throughout my lifetime. So check it out on Netflix. Moving on from that was something that they're doing at Best Buy and Walmart, maybe a couple other places, but it's basically this Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos kind of sugar skull thing they're doing with all these covers. I bought the original Carrie because I don't own the original Carrie. I like this movie. It's never been one of my favorite Stephen King adaptations. It's never even been one of my favorite Brian De Palma movies, but it's pretty good. You know, it's never been a movie that I'm going to recommend above a lot of other Stephen King adaptations, but basically you know the story of Carrie. She's this really reserved religious girl. She gets invited to the prom as a prank, and they dump pig blood on her, and it turns out she's got psychic powers, and she basically slaughters her entire prom. That's not really, it's not much of a spoiler nowadays. This movie's kind of common knowledge what it's about, but you know, it's a classic horror movie. I needed to add it to my collection, so I'll say see it on Netflix. I think that, you know, the remake is trash, but I don't think the best version of Carrie has been told yet, at least for the big screen. After that, I found a really cheap Blu-ray that I needed to add to my collection because I missed the big badass Halloween collection that they released. I got the smaller one, and it does not come with a producer's cut of Halloween 6. So I bought the standalone Blu-ray for this. It was like $7. If you don't know the story with Halloween 6, there's a producer's cut. There's a whole different aspect of the storyline that the studio and the producers and everybody were clashing over. The theatrical version has all the producer stuff taken out of it. This is all the producer stuff brought back into it. You have very passionate arguments on this movie. Some people think that the producer's cut is trash and the theatrical cut is great, and you have just as many people on the other side that think the producer's cut is the only way to watch this movie, and the theatrical cut totally screws the movie up. So I look forward to checking this out. Haven't watched it yet. But as far as Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, it's a movie that I think has one of the better Michael Myers in it. He's very intense and brutal and very intimidating. The mask is cool. The atmosphere is cool in the movie. The kills are great. But the story, yikes! One of the most incoherent stories in the franchise. So check this out on Netflix. I don't think you can find the producer's cut on any kind of Netflix or, you know, Vudu or anything like that. Maybe you can. But the movie itself, Halloween 6, I think it's worth checking out. Especially if you're a fan of Halloween. Moving on from that, speaking of horror, is probably one of the best horror movies that's come out this year for sure, but definitely probably my pick of the week, I think. Or pick of the month. Is it? Is it? No, it's not. It's almost my pick of the month. There's one that I'm going to pick a little bit above this one, but this is damn close to being my pick of the month. That's The Devil's Candy. Now, this is a badass metal horror movie. If you're a metal horror fan, you know just as well as I do that most of those movies are campy and cheesy. This one plays it completely straight. You got Ethan Embry in a really cool role. He moves his family into this small farmhouse. Turns out there was murders there years before, and basically he starts hearing these voices while this guy who was the one who murdered people years before is starting to basically try to come back to this house, and he seems like he's possessed by the devil a little bit. It's a little difficult to explain without getting into spoilers, but I'll just tell you it's a really cool movie with a badass soundtrack. One of the best horror movies that's come out this year. I didn't care for it much the first time that I watched it. I rewatched it, and I picked up on so much more that I missed the first time, and I love this movie. So go out and buy it. This movie costs like $12. Absolutely worth all of that, so go out and buy this. Moving on from that is the E.T. 4K, what is it, 35th anniversary edition. This was a must-buy. I mean, what more can you say about E.T.? This is a great set. This is a limited edition thing that they have at Best Buy, so definitely pick this up soon if you want to get this. Otherwise, you will be stuck with a regular 4K Blu-ray. but it's got a little booklet and everything in the inside of it. This is a great little set. Classic Steven Spielberg movie. Can't say anything about E.T. that hasn't already been said. Go out and buy this. This is an awesome set. The first horror movie to be dropped on 4K. Finally. What the fuck took you so long? The Cabin in the Woods. Had to buy it. Now, this is a movie that I liked a lot when it first came out, but I have not rewatched it since I bought it on Blu-ray way back when the first release was. So I was curious how this movie was going to hold up for me, and it totally holds up. I love this movie. This is one of the best horror comedies out there. It's not only genuinely freaky and really a big love letter to horror fans, but it is hilarious. You got Chris Hemsworth in this before he was Chris Hemsworth, the Thor guy that we know. Basically what this is your typical cabin in the woods setup where you have a group of teenagers going to this cabin in the woods for the weekend, and it turns out, and it tells you this right in the beginning of the movie, that basically this corporation is manipulating this cabin in the woods to create a horror movie. Basically they're basically trying to sacrifice these kids, so they get them to manipulate them to do all the stupid decisions that kids make in horror movies. If you're a horror fan, this is a must watch because there's so many tongue-in-cheek things in here that's just a love letter to horror fans. Such a smartly written movie that it blows my mind that they wrote this movie over a weekend. Joss Whedon wrote this over a weekend, so that tells you how genius that guy is. Absolutely go out and buy this. And the 4K looked great. Now this I picked up at Walmart because it was so damn cheap I could not say no, and that is this little X-Men 3-film collection. Now, this is basically the new X-Men trilogy. You got X-Men First Class, X-Men Days of Future Past, and X-Men Apocalypse. All three movies that I enjoyed. Days of Future Past is definitely the best of the three. I don't like First Class as much as everybody else, and I don't hate on Apocalypse near as much as everybody else, although I definitely acknowledge the flaws, but very, very good movies, especially if you're an X-Men fan. I mean, that film franchise is just damn good. There's got their stinkers in there. We all know the ones that I'm talking about, but all three of these are worth watching. First Class, I would say see it on Netflix. I think there's a lot of shifty acting here and there, a lot of really kind of convenient writing and weird dialogue in there, like especially whenever Jennifer Lawrence is giving everybody their names. They're like, we thought you should be Magneto, and you should be Professor X, and I'm going to be this, and it just feels so hammy and heavy-handed, and there's a lot of lines like that. Even there's a line where like, you know, we're going to be like G-Men. No, we're going to be X-Men. That shit drives me nuts. But the things about the movie that are good are damn good. Kevin Bacon's a kick-ass villain. They reutilized the beginning of the first X-Men movie in a genius way. Michael Fassbender and, damn, now I'm going to forget his name. The guy who plays Charles Xavier. You guys know who I'm talking about. I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. Jesus. Anyway, your two leads of Professor X and Magneto are completely genius casting. And especially the things surrounding Magneto as he's kind of like this Nazi hunter. That stuff is awesome. So check it out on Netflix. Very good movie. X-Men Days of Future Past, easily probably, well, not if you count Logan now. Now it's the third best in my opinion. But before Logan came out, it was the second best X-Men movie next to X2, X-Men United. And James McAvoy, that's the name of the actor. Ha! Now you can't bitch at me in the comment section. Anyway, X-Men Days of Future Past, awesome story, awesome movie. I'm a little bit pissed off this doesn't have the road cut. That's the one thing that they're really going to aggravate me with these 4K releases, is that they're kind of, the cuts that everybody wants, like the Terminator 2 that's coming out, they're not doing the director's cut, they're doing the old-fashioned theatrical cut. Just put the damn both cuts on there. Quit being bitches. Anyway, that's a go out and buy it. X-Men Apocalypse, again, see it on Netflix. Definitely a flawed movie, but I had a lot of fun with it. The 80s theme of it, the new cast of characters that take over for like Cyclops and Storm and all that I thought were great, especially Jean Grey. She was probably my favorite, so I really enjoy all three of these movies, but this set was really cheap, so the set itself is a go out and buy it. But for all three individual movies, Netflix, go out and buy it, Netflix. Now we have reached the time for my pick of the month. And this set came absolutely out of nowhere. I didn't hear that this thing was even coming out. I saw it at Best Buy, had to own it because, of course, the first one's a classic. Lee from Drum Dums turned me onto the sequel, which is one of my favorite horror sequels of all time now. And I had not seen 3 or 4, so I needed to check those out immediately and right that wrong, and that is the Psycho 4-film collection. All 4 movies on Blu-ray. And you know what? Even though the third one is kind of a less effective version of the second movie to a degree, and even though the fourth movie is definitely a 1990s TV movie with all the flaws that come with the 1990s TV movie, this is a damn good franchise. a damn good franchise, because even the worst movie, Psycho 4, is still pretty watchable. There's not really that much egregious in the movie. But this is a damn good set. It was like 20 bucks or something like that. For 4 movies, I mean, I would pay $20 for Psycho 2 alone. So getting 4 movies for 20 bucks, you can't beat that deal. The first one, obviously, the Alfred Hitchcock, one of the biggest classics in horror. It really started a lot of things in horror. Very important movie. The Psycho 2 is probably one of the coolest and one of the best sequels that you would not expect to be a good sequel. You think a sequel to Alfred Hitchcock Psycho, and you think, man, that's going to be trash, and it's so good. So definitely check that out. Psycho 3 I enjoyed, but still, there's a lot of things that it does that I think Psycho 2 does way better. And Psycho 4 I didn't really love, but I didn't hate it either. So as far as individual rankings or ratings, we'll say the first one obviously is go out and buy it. Second one is to definitely go out and buy it. 3 is check it out on Netflix. I would say skip 4, but it's on the high end of skip it. Like, it's not really a movie that's going to make you mad. It's just a movie that it focuses on the backstory and the origins of Norman Bates. And if you guys have been following me for any amount of time, you know how I hate that. So I'm not a fan of origin stories for horror icons, but this is absolutely my pick of the month. This is a badass set that I cannot believe that they actually put all 4 on there and released it in such a cool little set too. I mean, this thing is badass, and it was so cheap, man. You can't beat that. So definitely check out Psycho, the complete 4-movie collection. Just a few more, guys. This is a movie I have not seen yet, so I have no opinion on the movie whatsoever, but it was cheap. It was in the bargain bin alongside Cat's Eye, and that's Once Upon a Time in America. I gotta love, Robert De Niro's my boy. Gotta love Robert De Niro. So the fact that I had not seen this yet, had to write that wrong. Eventually I'll watch it, but had to add it to my collection. This was also in the bargain bin at Walmart. The Outsiders, one of my favorite movies growing up. Absolutely love this. This is a go out and buy it. You got Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise, Emilio Estevez, C. Thomas Howell, Matt Dillon. So many awesome actors. Ralph Macchio. Such a great story. One of those cool, greaser movies back in the 50s. Or the 60s actually. I love those kinds of stories, and The Outsiders is kind of the definitive story for that. So absolutely go out and buy it if you are one of the 2 people in the world that hasn't seen this movie. This one's going to shock people that I didn't already own this movie, but I did not own this movie yet. This was also in the bargain bin at Walmart, shockingly enough, and that is this anniversary edition, 40th anniversary of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I had not owned this on Blu-ray yet. The collector's edition that they came out with was really expensive, and even though I respect the shit out of that movie, I gave it a very high rating. I really love what it did for the horror genre. It's not a movie that I want to rewatch very often, so I didn't want to drop all that dime to get that. So I got this one instead. I'm perfectly happy having this one. Of course, this is a go out and buy it type movie. I mean, this is one of the most important and influential horror movies of all time. Doesn't have a whole lot of rewatchability for me because of the nature of the movie. It's much more of a graphic experience than it is a movie, like a story. But nonetheless, if you're a horror fanatic and you haven't seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, why have you not seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre? So check that one out. And the last one that I have, guys, is the one that I'm probably the most excited to talk about. And this is, I mean, again, just like Devil's Candy, this is just fractions away from being my pick of the month, because this is going to be in my top 10 movies of the year. I just think the Psycho set is more of a bargain and something that you definitely need to add to your collection. So that's why it made the pick of the month and not this one. And that is The Big Sick. Now, I didn't have the pleasure of seeing this in the theaters. Whenever it came out, it took a long time to get to my area. And by the time it came out, I wasn't really going to the movies very often because my work schedule and everything changed so much, but this is one of the best romantic comedies to come out in years. Definitely the best comedy this year, even though there is no competition for it. And basically this is the true story of Kumail Nanjiani, I believe is how you pronounce his name. But basically, this guy right here, it's telling his true story of how he met his wife. He meets this girl. He's a Pakistani guy. His parents are very old school Pakistani. They want him to have an arranged marriage. He wants nothing to do with that, but he won't tell them that. Meets this girl right here, obviously a Caucasian woman, falls in love with her. She befalls this mysterious illness, and it's basically a movie about not only how he's trying to come to terms with being able to tell his parents that he's in love with her and is not going to do an arranged marriage, but he's kind of meeting the parents of this girl, played by Holly Hunter, who is so good in this, and Ray Romano, who I am not a fan of, but he is great in this. So it's about him kind of meeting the parents and building this relationship with them while their daughter is in a coma. And it's such a good movie, such a great romantic comedy. The drama is there, the writing, the acting is there, phenomenal, very genuinely funny. This feels like something that even though he produced it, it feels like something that Judd Apatow would have directed and wrote in his prime. It feels like one of those movies, but honestly, can't recommend this movie enough. Everything you've heard about this, people raving about it. I was a little bit skeptical, thinking I wasn't going to like it as much as everybody said that I was, but I did. I love this. This is definitely in my top 10 of the year. I don't see it leaving my top 10 of the year, so look forward to hearing me talk about this in December. But The Big Sick, absolutely go out and buy this. Treat yourself, watch this movie, you will love it. Well, that's it for this month, guys. That's everything that I bought in the month of September. So, do you guys have any of these? Put your own things that you have bought down in the comment section below in September. Be sure to check out my Amazon affiliate links down below if you're interested in purchasing any of these. It's a great way to help this channel out without having to do anything extra, just adding movies to your collection. So click those links down below, guys. Please check out all my other videos. Like and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Share this video around. Put some good stuff down in the comment section. Let's get a conversation started on all of these movies. If you want to check my social media links out, you got Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter down below. You also have my Patreon page, which is another great way to support this channel and get cool exclusive content for patron eyes only. So check that out, guys. And if you want to check out some of those other videos, you can check out a few more by clicking right over here.